We are a COVID hospital. All of our intensive care units are occupied by COVID-positive patients. Everyone is giving everything they can.
And I want to say it from Chelsea family, but more than that, the whole public, that there's absolute thanks and admiration for everything you're doing.
Domestic abuse is on the rise.
Refuge needs our support
and reach even more women
just like me.
Today for me it's a celebration. A very big club as Chelsea coming to Israel to make the people here understand that girls can play football as well as boys.
As a gay footballer myself, no one should come to a football game or no one should support a club and feel like they can't because of the stereotype, stigma and the negativity that comes with it.
Our role as a football club is one that affects a lot of lives. We have a duty of care to make sure that we are involved with the vulnerable communities like we always are.
I've experienced anti-Semitism my whole life. I can hear the gunfire getting louder.
Targeting that synagogue.
Police stormed the Jewish supermarket at Portland.
Anti-Semitism. 12 have gone up, 57
4 hostages.
I never thought this was very
The human race cannot be stopped by hatred.
You can't underestimate seeing our football heroes speaking up. It really makes a phenomenal difference, and it's all credit to Chelsea Football Club.
This is one step forward towards the eradication of antisemitism and racism that we are suffering.
The story started 15 years ago when Mr. Abramovich bought the club. He wanted to use the force of football for good deeds.
I'm a proud player to play for Chelsea. And I think it's our duty as players, as a club, to spread this awareness.
We're honored to have with us today Bruce Buck, chairman of the Chelsea Football Club in London. Bruce, it's great to have you again at the Jerusalem Post Conference. Last year we were able to have you in person. This year, at least we still have you, but it's by screen. I wanted to ask you, Chelsea's been involved now a couple of years in this campaign against anti-Semitism. What prompted one of the world's leading football clubs to get involved in this? Why even bother? Why would it be something on your agenda?
Well, really two things. And in both cases, it comes down to the owner of our club, Roman Abramovich. In 2003, when he bought the club, he had sort of three guiding principles for the board. One was to be a successful football club on the pitch, on the field, right away. The other was to build long-term success. And the third one, not necessarily in the order of importance, was to serve the community, to do things for the community. And I don't really know, I've been away from the US a long time, I don't really know whether the same culture exists with US sports teams that exist here in the UK in terms of the moral obligation to help their community. Mm-hmm. Roman recognized that early on and told us that that is one of the things he really wants us to do. In 2017, at a board meeting in London, Roman raised the issue of the rise in anti-Semitism around the world. There had been a number of incidents in the UK, in France, in the US, and he said, okay, we're Chelsea, let's try and do something about it. And that was the start of our Say No to Anti-Semitism campaign, which we launched in January 2018.
Right. But I want to ask you, how do you measure success? Right? Can you tell, is there a way for you to tell in some metric of sort that you're having an impact on the conversation, on the campaign against anti-Semitism?
And really, Yaakov, that's really one of the more difficult things we have in terms of measuring success. There are no easy metrics out there, particularly when we know there is a rise in anti-Semitism these days. But we do a lot of talking, and we meet a lot of people, and the general perception is that we're moving the needle at least a little bit. We get a lot of good response from our fan base, from our community, and also from governmental sources. But we can't say that we solved 5% of the problem or 1% of the problem, but we feel like we're having an impact, and we're going to keep doing that as long as we feel we're having an impact.
And you mentioned the fans, Bruce. And for the fans, I'm guessing anti-Semitism is not their number one issue. But it's interesting you said that they received it positively. They understood the importance of it, right? Is that the sense?
Anti-Semitism and racism, more generally, has historically been a problem at football matches in the UK.
Right.
So our fans are aware of it. We have had some incidents over the years, including a few in recent years. So our fans are aware of it, have talked to us about it, and they're pleased to see what we're doing.
I want to ask you, you became the first football club as Chelsea to adopt the IHRA definition, the International Holocaust Remembrance Association definition of what anti-Semitism is. Why was this important? Why for a football club? Countries haven't adopted IHRA, but a football club's going to adopt IHRA's definition?
Well, if you're going to fight something, and if you're going to fight anti-Semitism, you need to know what you're fighting. And the definition, which is the IHRA definition, was important to us. It's been adopted by the UK, so we thought it was important for us to adopt. And a couple of other clubs in the UK have now adopted it since we did. And we're encouraging and hoping that other football clubs will adopt it. But you can't fight something unless you can define it.
Unless you can define what that challenge or enemy in this case might be. You took the Chelsea team, including some of the star players, a couple of years ago on March of the Living. That's that trip to the Nazi death camp, Auschwitz-Birkenau. What was it like being there with these football stars who really, they're not Jewish, they don't have anything to do with this story? What was that experience, the big takeaway?
Yeah, actually, we've been there 3 times with different groups, including ones with 150 fans. But the first time we went was with some 16, 17-year-old academy players. Mm-hmm. And it was really quite interesting. We hired a young woman guide, and we instructed her to just walk around with these 5 or 6 players because these are young boys, and to understand the Holocaust, you also had to understand World War II a bit. So she really gave them, a half-day history lesson, which really worked very well. And afterwards, a couple of boys were interviewed by the BBC, and it was really quite impactful for them. And they were saying things like, I really want to tell my parents about this experience. I really want to go back and tell the other academy players about the experience. And the following year, we brought a few more, and we probably would have done it this year, but for coronavirus. So right. It's been very successful in teaching our young players history and put a perspective on how lucky they are.
How lucky we all are in this generation. What's next in terms of programs? I had the opportunity in January when I was at Stamford Bridge. I got to see the mural painted on the side of the stadium of the Jewish footballers in their memory, 3 who had been sent to Nazi camps. What's the next step along the way here?
Well, I don't really know, in the sense that, we're always looking for more ideas and ideas that will continue to move the needle. We have a couple of ideas that haven't yet been announced, but I think Roman Abramovich's perspective on this was, let's just keep going and let's do everything we can and not say this is a 2-year program or a 3-year program or whatever. So I think in the months ahead and the weeks ahead, you'll see some announcements from us of other interesting ways to implement Say No to Anti-Semitism.
So I got to ask you also, as we wrap up, since the outbreak of COVID, We've seen Chelsea launch a number of initiatives. There was support for NHS, which is the National Health Service. There was the campaign against domestic abuse. But there's also been initiatives to help fans as well as staff of the club. Now, games continue, but fans are not yet returning. That's the question I see that's still up in the air. I'm not a big football fan myself, but I do read what's happening. Any news on that front as the chairman of Chelsea? Can we expect to see fans returning to Stamford Bridge in big numbers soon?
Well, I think the most important thing is safety first. And we have a problem, and we recognize that the return of fans to the stadium has to be done at the right time with the appropriate protocols in place. We're talking to the government. The Premier League is talking to the government every day about it, and we hope that over the next month or two we will be able to get a reasonable number of fans back in the stadium, but that's not certain, and we accept that there are bigger issues at play here.
And we'll see Chelsea in the Championship this year?
Well, in the Champions League, yes, we'll see Chelsea in the Champions League, and we're looking forward to it.
Great. Bruce Buck, chairman of the Chelsea Football Club. It's great to be with you today. Thank you for being with us.
Talk to you.
Okay. Take care.
Take care.